Just before I start this video, I just wanted to put out a trigger warning because I am going to be talking about topics such as mental health, and I'm also going to be mentioning what happened over the weekend in Seoul in the Itaewon district. So if you are triggered by any of these events, I would advise you to click away from the video now. If you are struggling with any of these issues, then I am going to leave some links down below and some phone numbers, both for Korean and international phone numbers, in order for you to get any help and support, because mental health is a real issue. However, if you are triggered by any of these events that I am going to be talking about, then I'd probably advise for you to click away from this video now. So this video is not going to be a upbeat, cheery video that I usually make, because I'm filming this on Tuesday, the 1st of November, and as you're probably very much aware by now of what happened during Halloween celebrations in Seoul, in Itaewon, I really don't have any words for how I feel, for how the country feels, but I just know for a fact that my absolute grief and anguish and everything that I'm feeling right now is in no comparison to people that have actually lost loved ones. So I just want to send all my thoughts and prayers to those that are grieving, because it is really a traumatic time. On Saturday evening, I was actually in Itaewon with my friends during Halloween celebrations, and just the absolute, there are absolutely no words to describe the sights that I saw, and it was so overwhelming and so triggering to me, and I just can't even comprehend like how I'm feeling right now. And because I was feeling so overwhelmed and traumatized by it all, I actually called in sick to work yesterday, just like for a mental health sick day, because I just couldn't fathom the idea of going into work. And I really do think that this whole, yet it be very traumatic, this whole event has opened up many doors to discussions about mental health over here in Korea, because previously, mental health was just really not spoken about. However, over the past couple of days, I've had X amount of people checking up on me, a lot of them being from South Korea. I saw co-workers and friends around me openly talking about mental health, and I really do think this is a big turning point for mental health within Korea. However, there is absolutely no denying that mental health over here in Korea isn't talked about enough. The stigma attached to it is completely outrageous, and there are a lot of negative connotations to do with mental health over here. The vast majority of it stemming from just the simple culture of Korea. Korea is very much heavily based upon Confucian ideals, and for those of you who don't know what that means, it's more the fact that individuals would put the priority of the family and others over their own needs. So talking about any sign of mental health or any mental weakness is just seen as like a no-go, because it can drag down the family, it can drag down the name, it can drag down yourself, and it's just not one of those things that is openly spoken about enough. I read a quote from an article not too long back actually. The quote is, "Mental health should be tolerated, not treated." This just sums up mental health in Korea to a T. Before I moved over to here in South Korea, I knew that the mental health issue was completely different to that back at home. And where I am in the UK, it's really become apparent over the past like 10, actually probably not 10, probably 5 years, how important mental health is. However, in Korea, it is just not the same. And I knew this before coming over here, and I really do consider myself as like a strong-minded person. I don't have any underlying mental health conditions. However, things like this and this weekend have really triggered me firsthand in ways that I really just cannot describe, to be honest. And just the thought that if I'm going through something like this and I know my mental health is in a pretty good situation, I can't even fathom the idea of how people that experienced it firsthand are feeling. Many statistics out there say that South Korea is one of the highest suicide rates, the highest mental health illnesses, and in a recent study, 90% of people that did commit suicide over here in South Korea were diagnosed with some sort of underlying mental health illness. And this really does say a lot about the whole mental health situation over here in Korea, because people just aren't willing to speak out. People really aren't willing to speak out in terms of like saying bad things about their family. People really aren't willing to speak out in terms of fear of losing their job. And South Koreans hold like a lot of pride in just like having a high standard and just like portraying themselves as a really confident and very successful person. And mental health is just seen as a weakness. But I really do think out of all the tragedy that has happened, this is a huge turning point for South Korea and everybody that has suffered with mental health over here. From the same study that I read that there are 2 million sufferers of mental health over here. 2 million. However, out of this 2 million, only 15,000 people actually seek treatment, which is such a crazy statistic. That just means so many people are just like living with mental health problems over here. And even though the medication is available, even though the treatment is there, people just aren't willing or seeking it. For example, when I called in sick for work yesterday, just for the sake that I just couldn't go to work, I was just so overwhelmed by everything that had happened over the weekend, I felt guilty about phoning in sick. I felt guilty because I was just like, oh my goodness, they're just not going to believe me that I need like a mental health day. I've not used any other sick days for any other health reason throughout the year, but I just thought to myself, I was like, they're just not going to believe me. They're just going to think it's like a thing they just pass off. Oh, he's just like lying. He's probably like on a day trip somewhere. But I just thought to myself, like, even if they thought that, and even if worse comes to worse and they were like, no, you've got to come in today, I was adamant that I just wasn't coming in because I just needed a day to myself. And I was so grateful this time. Like, I really, really appreciated it. However, when I got into school today, it was a very strange interaction I had today throughout the whole of today. I was going with the impression that people probably wouldn't talk about it, and I was very comfortable with people not discussing it. I didn't really want people to talk to me about it and me being triggered again. However, the very, very first person that I saw at school today, as soon as I walked through the door, was the principal. And the principal was the person that said, absolutely, take the day off. This is exactly what you like need right now. And bear in mind, my principal, like, he doesn't speak hardly any English, bless him. And another thing in Korean culture, you just really don't like touch one another, you don't really like hug one another, you don't really touch each other on like the shoulders or this kind of thing. My principal straight away came up to me, asked how I was, and even a little thing by just like rubbing me on the shoulder and like asking if I'm okay and everything, that like really meant the world to me. And I honestly think just from like this weekend, it's like drastically changed a lot of people's opinions on mental health. Before, even though like he's an absolutely lovely man, I was terrified of the principal. I was like, oh my god, the authority. I was always just a bit nervous around him. But the fact that like he just touched my shoulders, rubbed them, and genuinely asked if I was okay, that like really, really shocked me, because I just couldn't believe that someone who I was scared to talk to about my mental health situation was really, really understanding about the whole situation. And throughout the day as well, like a lot of my co-teachers like checked in on me, they called me, like I had numerous calls throughout the day, like asking how I was, of which again, I really, really appreciated. However, the biggest thing that happened throughout my day was after lunchtime, and I got an email from my vice principal, who again, due to like authority, I'm a little bit scared of them. However, he actually asked if I wanted like counselling paid for by the school, and literally my jaw dropped. I just could not believe that this was like openly a thing that was discussed within my school, within Korea. And I honestly think like if a situation like this just didn't occur, I really don't think mental health would be taken the same way that it is right now. We're currently in a period of mourning in South Korea for the remainder of the week, and a lot of people I have spoken to have been a lot more open about how they're feeling, and even things just admitting that you're feeling sad, and just things to admit that you're just not feeling okay. It's a really, really big step towards like the mental health conditions over here in South Korea. The whole program that I'm on with EPIC and teaching abroad over here, some of the like requirements to come over here, like you have to submit a health declaration form, and if you tick like the anxiety or the depression box in that you have anxiety or depression, then you just physically cannot come over here into South Korea. Like there is absolutely like no disregard. Like as soon as you tick that box, you are not accepted onto the program. And I can understand it from a Korean perspective, like why they don't want people with anxiety or depression or underlying mental health conditions teaching in Korea. However, it's just the complete disregard in terms of people's well-being to do with mental health that is the absolute problem over here. Just because someone has anxiety or just because someone has depression does not mean that they're not going to make a great teacher over here. And it doesn't mean that medication that they are taking doesn't work, it doesn't control triggers. However, I do really think that the whole process of moving to Korea as a teacher needs to be reviewed, because it's just not a sustainable way of living in a 21st century world. And on education, the stresses of education over here are some of the highest in the world. And honestly, it like really shows. Like my children, they get to school at 8:30, they leave school at about 2:30, they'll go back home for some lunch, and then they'll go back to Hagwon. They'll stay to Hagwon till like 5, 6. Some people even have Hagwons until like later. They'll have multiple Hagwons on a day. To do this all again the following day, 5, sometimes 6 days a week. However, these aren't treated as children. They're treated as machines. They're literally not treated as children whatsoever. And even just speaking to some of my co-teachers whose children are in like middle or high school, they talk to me about how they feel so guilty about like how their children are feeling sad, or how they're like really stressed about hagwons and like extra school curriculum activities. However, they're not doing anything to control the situation, because there is so much pressure in the family name to make your children do well, to make your children do better than what you did. And even though these teachers and the co-teachers' children are just putting all this pressure on their children, however, it's just one of those things that they just will not change, because it will put a negative name on their family name if they weren't to do well within education. So yeah, I just wanted to talk like open and honestly about mental health over here in Korea, because even though I do think change is on the horizon, there is no doubt that mental health is going to take a long time to catch up with anything like it is back in the UK. And the understanding that mental health is a real illness and it should be treated like any other illness. You can clearly see by things such as like the high suicide rates over here that it is really impacting the society. But it's just, again, one of those things that just doesn't want to be spoken about, doesn't want to be brought to the attention. However, over the past couple of days, I've been really eye-opened about people being open and honest about how they're feeling, and I really do hope that things are changing. If you are coming over here to South Korea, I hope you found this video useful. If you are living over here in South Korea, please let me know what you think. Please let me know if my like evaluation as a foreigner over here is an accurate one. Is this like something that you're feeling? Is this something that you agree with? If you are a foreigner thinking about coming over here, just realise that mental health really isn't the same over here, and it's not treated as any kind of equal. So just keep this in mind if you are applying to come to South Korea. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Like I said, I've left some links down below if you need to contact anyone, whether you're in Korea or whether you're abroad and watching this from a different country, because being open and honest about mental health is absolutely okay. On a closing note, I hear a lot of people say it's okay not to be okay. And in all honesty, I really don't agree with this quote whatsoever. If you're not okay, then that's not okay. So if you are feeling anything, please reach out to someone. Always know that someone will be there. My inbox is always open if you have any questions, or if you're ever feeling any certain way. Always know there will be someone there for you on the other end of the phone as well. I hope you have a good rest of your day. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. I will catch you next time on this channel. Thanks for watching. See you next time.